cause of death was from stabbing. She had been stabbed numerous times.
Body was located right out in this.
Tracks, tire tracks that were measured, and there was also a orange and black stocking cap. I keep it on my desk as sort of a reminder uh, that there's an unsolved case out there. It didn't happen on my watch, but at the same time, I'd like to see it solved on my watch if at all possible.
The open road. In 1974, it represented freedom, possibility, and adventure. But for some travelers, like Mary Schlaes, it held unseen dangers lurking in the shadows of that promised freedom. Picture a talented young artist, her dreams as vibrant as the colors on her canvas. She's heading to an art show in Chicago, a show she'd never reach. Like countless other free spirits of her era, Mary chose to hitchhike that day. It was February 15th, 1974, and she had no way of knowing that a simple journey would become her last. The questions have haunted investigators for decades. What really happened to Mary on that bitter winter day? Who was the mysterious figure in the gold compact car? And how could a single piece of evidence, tucked away for almost 50 years, finally break open a case that seemed forever lost to time? Tonight, we're peeling back the layers of one of Wisconsin's most perplexing cold cases. From the innocent moment Mary stepped out of her Minneapolis apartment to the shocking breakthrough that would come nearly half a century later, every detail matters. Every clue tells a story. And in the end, you'll see how justice, though delayed, wasn't denied. But before we dive deeper into the mystery, I'd like to ask for a small favor. The statistics show that more than 70% of you watching aren't subscribed to the channel yet. If you're enjoying these deep dives into true crime and want to stay updated on future cases, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and ensures you don't miss out on any new videos. Now, without further ado, let's get back to the case. Mary Kathleen Schlaes entered the world in 1948, right as America was transforming itself. The daughter of a post-war generation, she grew up watching her country reshape itself through civil rights marches, cultural revolution, and an explosion of artistic expression. These weren't just events in a history book for Mary. They were the forces shaping her worldview, her aspirations, her very identity. Art wasn't just a hobby for young Mary. It was her language, her way of interpreting the world around her. Those who knew her back then remember a girl who could spend hours lost in her sketchbook, who saw beauty in places others might miss. Her high school years weren't just about passing classes. They were about developing her artistic voice through art clubs and local exhibitions where her work already was turning heads. When Mary stepped onto the University of Minnesota campus, she found her tribe. The fine arts program became her sanctuary, a place where her talents could truly flourish. This wasn't just about earning a degree. Mary threw herself into every aspect of artistic life, graduating with honors in 1973. Her professors didn't just see another student. They saw a unique voice, someone who could capture raw emotion on canvas in ways that made even seasoned artists take notice. But Mary? She wasn't content with just mastering art. Her mind craved more. She became fluent in Dutch, German, and English, and was teaching herself Japanese. This wasn't just about collecting languages. It was about breaking down barriers, about connecting with people and cultures beyond her Midwest roots. The road called to Mary, like it did to so many young people in the 70s. She'd already hitchhiked across America and ventured through Europe, each journey feeding her art, expanding her horizons. Her friends in Minneapolis knew her as someone who lived life fully, who saw each art show and each travel opportunity as a chance to grow, to learn, to create. February 15th, 1974, a date etched into the memories of everyone connected to this case. Mary woke up that morning in her Kenwood apartment, likely going through her usual routine. Her destination? An art exhibition in Chicago that could have been a stepping stone in her budding career. Her plan was simple enough. Hitchhike first to Madison, Wisconsin, then make her way to Chicago. In the 70s, this wasn't just common. It was almost a rite of passage for young adults seeking adventure and connection. Her roommate Judith would later provide investigators with details that would haunt this case for decades. Around 10:30 that morning, Mary walked out of their apartment carrying a sign she'd made, just the word Madison, written out to catch a driver's attention. She'd chosen a maroon turtleneck sweater and denim slacks for the journey. What catches investigators' attention to this day is her choice of footwear. Loafer-type shoes, hardly ideal for a winter hitchhiking trip. Over everything, she wore a distinctive tan, furry three-quarter-length coat. That coat, along with her purse, would become crucial pieces of evidence in their absence. Neither has ever been found. The route she planned to take, Interstate 94 from Minneapolis to Madison, stretches roughly 270 miles through the heart of the upper Midwest. In good weather, it's a straightforward drive. But this was February in Wisconsin. Winter had a firm grip on the landscape. Mary would have known she'd need multiple rides to reach her destination. While hitchhiking carried its risks, especially for women traveling alone, Mary's past experiences might have given her a false sense of security. What happened next would shake a community to its core. Approximately 3 hours after Mary set out, Dennis Anderson was driving near Elk Creek Lake in Dunn County, Wisconsin. What he witnessed would replay in his mind for years to come. A gold-colored compact car parked along a rural, dead-end road, and what appeared to be two people locked in some kind of struggle. It's the kind of scene that makes you question what you're seeing. Anderson drove past at first, a decision he'd wrestle with for years, but something nagged at him. Something wasn't right. When he returned to the scene, the car was gone. What he found instead would launch a decades-long investigation. There, in a snow-filled ditch, lay the body of a young woman. Anderson, trying to process what he was seeing, sought help from a neighbor. Together, they made the call that would bring Dunn County Sheriff's Department racing to the scene. The brutality of what investigators found shocked even seasoned officers. The vibrant young artist had been stabbed 15 times. Neck, back, stomach. Her nose was broken. The defensive wounds on her hands told their own tragic story. Mary had fought fiercely for her life. This wasn't just a murder, it was an explosion of violence that seemed at odds with the peaceful surroundings. The crime scene itself offered frustratingly little. Winter had worked against the investigators. Fresh snow had already begun obscuring vital evidence. Tire tracks, potentially crucial to identifying the killer's vehicle, were degrading by the hour. A black and orange stocking cap found nearby offered some hope. It contained several hairs that investigators carefully preserved. But in 1974, DNA analysis was still the stuff of science fiction. That cap and its secrets would have to wait for technology to catch up. The witness description led to a composite sketch. A man between 25 and 30, medium build, light-colored hair. The vehicle description went out nationwide. A gold-colored compact car, possibly a Chevrolet Vega. But in the pre-digital age, disseminating this information was slow, methodical work. Every hour that passed made finding the killer more difficult. As news of Mary's death spread, the area near Elk Creek Lake took on an almost mythical quality in local lore. Some residents reported seeing a young woman with long brown hair walking along the same road where Mary was found. While these ghost stories added to the case's mystique, they did little to advance the investigation. The real work continued in police stations and forensic labs, where dedicated professionals refused to let Mary's case gather dust. Every aspect of Mary's final day came under scrutiny. Investigators conducted exhaustive interviews with anyone who might have crossed paths with her. Friends, family, fellow students from the University of Minnesota. They were looking for anything. a casual comment about someone who made her uncomfortable, an unusual interaction in the days before her death, any detail that might point them toward her killer. The very nature of hitchhiking in the 1970s complicated matters enormously. How do you trace someone's movements when their journey relied on the random kindness of strangers? The investigators put out public appeals, hoping someone might remember giving a ride to a young woman matching Mary's description that February morning. But the transient nature of highway travel meant that potential witnesses could have come from anywhere and gone anywhere. Law enforcement cast their net wider, reaching out to neighboring states. They shared case details through national crime databases, hoping similar cases or known offenders might provide the breakthrough they needed. But as leads dried up and witnesses' memories faded, the case began its slow slide into the cold case files. The frustration was palpable, especially for Mary's family. Her brother Don Schlace would later express what so many felt. "I just want to look him in the eye and say, 'What are you thinking? What were you doing? What happened?'" These weren't just rhetorical questions. They were the burning need for answers that kept the case alive in people's hearts, long after the official investigation had stalled. As months turned into years, the case remained stubbornly unsolved. Periodic reviews of evidence and re-interviews of witnesses became routine, but no new information surfaced. Dunn County, though deeply scarred by the crime, saw the case gradually fade from daily conversation. But in the sheriff's office, Mary's file never gathered dust. They were waiting for science to catch up with their need for answers. That wait lasted until 2009, when a crucial decision was made. The Dunn County Sheriff's Office, working with the Wisconsin Department of Justice's Division of Criminal Investigation, took a bold step. They would exhume Mary's body. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but they knew that modern forensic techniques might reveal what was invisible to investigators in 1974. The exhumation proved its worth. Analysis revealed 2 male DNA profiles from the crime scene, a discovery that added new complexity to the case. These profiles didn't match anyone in criminal databases at the time, but they provided something investigators hadn't had before: scientific evidence they could use to identify or eliminate suspects. The presence of 2 profiles raised new questions. Had there been an accomplice? Or was one profile from someone who'd tried to help Mary? Throughout these years, the Dunn County Sheriff's Office maintained its commitment to solving the case. They continually encouraged public assistance, knowing that even the smallest detail could break the case wide open. The media periodically revisited Mary's story, ensuring that new generations would know about the talented young artist whose life was cut tragically short. In 2018, investigators explored an intriguing possibility. Could there be a connection between Mary's murder and Randall Woodfield, the notorious I-5 killer? Woodfield's history as a Green Bay Packers draftee and his pattern of murders along the I-5 corridor in the 1970s and 1980s seemed to warrant investigation. The timing matched, and Mary fit the profile of his known victims. But despite thorough investigation, no definitive connection could be established. Woodfield was never charged in relation to Mary's case. Then came November 2024, the month that would finally bring answers to questions that had haunted investigators for 50 years. But to understand how we got there, we need to step back to 2022, when the Dunn County Sheriff's Office made a decision that would change everything. They partnered with an organization many had never heard of, Ramapo College's IGG Center. This collaboration would prove historic, not just for Mary's case, but for the IGG Center itself. Using cutting-edge genetic genealogy techniques, the team began examining DNA evidence from that black and orange stocking cap, the same piece of evidence that had taunted investigators since 1974. What they found would lead to the first suspect identification and arrest in the IGG Center's history. The evidence led them to John K. Miller. At 84 years old, living quietly in his Owatonna, Minnesota apartment. Miller had no idea that science was about to catch up with him. Think about that for a moment. While 5 decades of investigators had chased leads, while Mary's family had grieved and wondered, while witnesses had grown old trying to remember details, the answer had been just a few hours' drive from where it all began. When detectives arrived at Miller's home, they weren't sure what to expect. Cold cases this old rarely end with clear-cut confessions. But in a twist that stunned even veteran investigators, Miller reportedly did just that. He confessed to the crime that had haunted Dunn County for half a century. The impact of this breakthrough reverberated through the law enforcement community.
John Miller was found to be the contributor through IgG of the DNA collected from the crime scene. An interesting part about this date, which was November 4th of 2024, also would have been Mary's 76th birthday. On November 7th, 2024, we interviewed John Miller at his home, where he subsequently confirmed his involvement in the death of Mary Schleiss. Upon conclusion of interviewing John Miller, he did inform us that as soon as he had opened the door, he knew why we were there.
Sheriff Kevin Bogd and the entire Dunn County Sheriff's Department publicly expressed their gratitude to Ramapo College's IgG Center. This wasn't just about closing a case, it was about proving that with the right tools and dedication, no case is ever truly unsolved. Mary would have been 76 this year. Just think about that. An entire lifetime lived and lost. While Miller sits in custody awaiting extradition to Wisconsin, investigators continue piecing together the full story. They know that even with a confession, there are still questions to be answered, details to be confirmed, and a complete picture to be painted for the prosecution. This case serves as a beacon of hope for other families still waiting for answers. The journey toward justice for Mary Schleiss teaches us several powerful lessons. First, about the importance of preserving evidence, no matter how insignificant it might seem at the time. Second, about the value of witnesses coming forward. Remember Dennis Anderson, who chose to turn his car around that day. His decision to report what he saw helped build the foundation that would eventually lead to an arrest. And finally, about the power of family determination, the kind of love that refuses to let a case go cold, no matter how many years pass. But what does this mean for the thousands of other cold cases still waiting to be solved? As we've seen with Mary's story, the combination of preserved evidence, advancing technology, and relentless determination can break open cases that seemed forever frozen in time. What do you think? Will we see more cold cases cracked wide open as DNA technology continues to advance? How many families are out there, still waiting for the phone call that finally brings them answers? The same call that Mary's family received after 50 long years of wondering? Consider this. That black and orange stocking cap sat in an evidence locker for decades. To the original investigators, it was just fabric with a few hairs. Important, but limited in what it could tell them. Today, those same fibers told a story that led straight to John K. Miller's door. How many other evidence lockers across the country hold similar secrets, just waiting for science to catch up? This isn't just about closing a cold case. It's about honoring a life that mattered, about showing families still waiting for answers that hope never expires, about proving that justice, though sometimes delayed, can still be served. If you found Mary's story as compelling as we did, take a moment to like this video and share it. Every share could help another family searching for answers. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth investigations into cases like Mary's, and don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay updated on our latest documentaries. In the comments below, tell us your thoughts. Do you have faith in DNA technology to keep solving decades-old cases? Have you seen the power of family determination make a difference in other cold cases? Your insights and experiences matter to our true crime community. And if you're ready to dive deeper into more unsolved mysteries, and the cases that challenged investigators for decades, check out our other videos appearing on your screen now. We've got more stories of justice delayed but not denied, more tales of determination and breakthrough, more moments where science and dedication finally uncovered the truth. Thank you for joining us in remembering Mary Schlaes, artist, dreamer, daughter, friend, and thank you for being part of a community that believes every victim deserves justice, no matter how long it takes. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking the truth.